Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Dadsigner podcast. I'm Michael Smith, your host, and today I am joined by Adam Grayson. Hey, Adam, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Long time. We think we've been talking since last year, technically. I look back at our DMs, it was like December, and I was taking down Christmas lights. So I appreciate you being patient with me to get actually on here, get my schedule cleared off. So super stoked.
It, it's all good. It's one of those things where, especially given the name Dadsigner, like family stuff's going to come up, and all these other things are going to come up. And if I wasn't gracious with that, I would be a
Yeah,
terrible dad because it's just normal life.
100%. Yep. Just consider me like a running around toddler that you had to just wrangle to get on the podcast. So I appreciate it though. Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. I'm glad you're here. And yeah, why don't you tell folks a little bit if they're unfamiliar about you? Where are you from? Tell them a bit about your family and the unique kind of dual roles that you have professionally.
Yeah. So, yeah, my name is Adam Grayson. I am a father, husband first, um, lover of God first. Um, from that point, I'm a creative. I am the senior brand designer at Acorns full time. Been there for 5 years. Actually, the longest stint I've ever been internal anywhere, and actually,
Nice.
technically, like only like my third big boy job outside of freelancing for 8 years. So with that, I'm also the freelance designer under the name Studio Grayson. I've been doing freelance design work from the beginning. Gosh, probably since 2003, 2002, maybe even. And I was basically just working at a church at that point as like a little designer guy. And that kind of just built into this Studio Grayson thing where I've had the amazing opportunity to work with super cool clients like Disney, Target, to name just like some of the bigger ones. Uh, but though those are the fun names to mention. Like a lot of it is a lot of other clients, and those projects matter just as much as the cool names. Yeah, a little bit about me on that. Uh, everything that I do creative wise, I feel like stems from family life, which is why I'm so honored that I get to work from home, even though it can be really stressful, as you can imagine. But no, it's been great because I feel like my family life fuels my creativity many times. Like my wife the other day, me and my son we're doing one of those October challenges, where it's like the spooky thing or whatever. But I invited him into the experiment, and so he's coming up with the concepts, and then we're tag teaming, and he's going to sketch it, and I'm going to do it. But she actually captured a photo of me and him in my office talking about what we were going to do. And it actually kind of mirrors when I worked at Disney, which is one of the only other jobs I had. And he was just a newborn on my lap in my office. So it was like a cool duality thing. But yeah, man, I just love my family so much, which I'm sure we'll dig much more deep into. But that's a little bit about me.
Yeah, that's awesome. And what a cool, like how quickly the kids grow up. Like, I think about those moments where you have that newborn or, 1-year-old on your lap in your office, and then all of
Mhm.
a sudden they're 10, 11, 12, and you're like, "Yeah, you could still sit on my lap, but this is gonna be far less comfortable for both of us."
Yeah, yeah, for sure, absolutely, yeah.
But yeah, the relationship's just getting deeper and richer with each age too.
Yeah.
One of the things I wanted to chat about a little bit was, you have a unique perspective working at Acorns. And I don't know if you work on the Acorns for Kids product at all.
Mhm,
But if so, what is your take on teaching kids about money at a young age?
mhm.
Having this unique insider perspective on a product that's kind of working towards that.
Yeah, no, actually, what's really cool is back in 2020, I got a freelance project from a buddy named Sky Hartman. He's been a really good friend over the years. He was like pretty much like the almost like the head, like creative director of all of Acorns at some point. But he brought me on my first project, and it was for Acorns early. It was when they were first starting it out, first trying this out. They brought me in. I did some brand design for them. I did illustrations, right? For product, for marketing. But one of the other cool projects was we did a children's book, which this was actually my technically my first ever children's book that I ever did. Um, and since then, so to define my role at Acorns, to like explain it a little bit more, I touch everything. So if you go to the website, if you open the app, like you're gonna see my work. I do almost all CRM. I've in some way I might not do every single one, but I've defined the way they look. So as a senior brand designer, like I do all the illustrations in the app. I do all the CRM stuff that you might receive. Acorns Early is a little different where before we shifted the aesthetic, I was kind of heavily involved in the way that looks. And now we have the Acorns Early app and card. And so that's kind of like the stuff I'm working on. But um, man, I think it's been one of the most refreshing things that we do at Acorns because I don't know about you, my upbringing, I grew up pretty poor. I was on another podcast and it was funny. He dug up a story about when I was in basketball and all my teammates were wearing like the super dope Jordans and like my mom was like, "We're going to Payless, baby," and I was rocking the Shaquille O'Neals that were like the off brand of those J's. And so for me, growing up, money was I didn't know anything about it. I was never equipped like what it would look like to have money and to have wealth. I was not equipped on what it looked like to save money, to invest. None of those things were on my radar whatsoever. So when I got that Acorns Early project back in 2020, it was huge for me because I was like, this is exactly what I want. And I would just had my second son and I was looking at both my boys going, I don't want them to have the same financial struggles that me and my wife Christina have had. Like, I want them to have this understanding about investment, saving, how to budget. Like, all those things are so important. And it's something that I had to learn much later in life. And I still feel like I'm having to deal with the repercussions of not understanding those things. So I would say the Acorns Early product is one of my most favorite things we do because I think it has the greatest payout for the future to where it's like, you know, the our later product, which is for like retirement, like that's great. But I think I'm gonna see much more fruit come from teaching a 7-year old how to budget and watching them grow up into someone that's understands wealth, understands investment, understands like to give and to not just receive. Like those principles is amazing to watch kind of flourish in this environment.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Do you think if you didn't have your boys, you would and I have to be careful how I ask this because I'm not trying to say anything negatively about Acorns or like you
Yeah.
ever wanting to leave there, but like would
Yes.
you have been as excited to work at Acorns if especially Acorns Early if you didn't have your boys?
I probably would have probably just looked at it through the lens of like, this is a project that I'm going to make money off of, not
Mhm.
with any passion, you know? And that's something that is becoming incredibly important to me now, later on, now 5 years in, is that switching the mindset from just like what I can get from Acorns to what I can give to Acorns. And I'm
Mhm.
now starting to trickle that into like the way I view all projects in general. But no, I don't think I would have been as passionate. Now, the other side of the Acorn story that some people may not know is uh, shortly after that, before that project wrapped, my mom had passed away. And actually, before that project, before it came in, maybe 9 months before that, my dad passed away. So when my mom passed away, Acorn stepped in and they loved me like I had never had any client show me love before. Um, they sent me gifts. They gave me time. Like we didn't even wrap yet. We finished the in-app stuff, which was the most important, but the children's book kind of came after because I just needed to just mourn. And they gave me that space. And it was right after that that they're like, hey man, what do you think about coming on board? We've never had a senior brand designer before. You're super talented at illustration. You can do so many different styles, so many different aesthetics. What do you think about jumping on board? So joining Acorns felt like um, finding a family that I didn't have at that point because I just lost, two of the biggest figureheads to my family. But no, like I don't think if that Acorn Early project would have happened, if I wouldn't have had kids, I don't know that I would have viewed it as passionate. Now, would I have joined Acorns? Probably based off of just the way that they were there for me when I needed someone. So yeah, I think that answers the question.
Yeah, totally. And
Yeah.
it's interesting, like, from the outside, a lot of people probably look at your online presence or Studio Grayson or whatever it is and say like, "Oh, I didn't even realize he had a full-time job," or "How does he balance the full-time job, these pretty large clients for illustration work,
Mhm.
and a family?"
Yeah.
And then maybe we'll talk about this a little bit later, but, like, you're also training for a half marathon. Like, how do you fit all of that in and make it work for you and your family?
Man, well, I mean, I'll say the balance isn't easy. I mean, I think especially like when I take on a freelance project, each project comes with different demands. My full time job is obviously incredibly important, so it gets priority. My family's incredibly important, and so I've just had to get really clever with how I take on work when I do work. I find instead of being a night owl, right, when I freelance at night, I actually freelance early in the morning. So I might be waking up between 4 and 5 to get the freelance work done, and I do that. And part of it, when my mom passed away, she passed away. I was actually freelancing that night when she passed away. So there's a little bit of trauma response that I'm trying to still work through where being up at night working feels odd. I'm not expecting
Mm,
something to happen, but I just don't feel as motivated. So I freelance in the morning. Um, and I think that also frees me up to focus on work throughout the day. But as far as family goes, man, I have a sort of open door policy for my family. If they need me throughout the day, dad is there unless I'm in a meeting or a podcast. So they can come to me and they can have their dad or their husband when they need me. And sometimes that throws things off. But if I find if I make time for the things that are the most important to me, everything else tends to work itself out. I don't know like how that works out, but I've just found that over the years. But yeah, I know we talked about this a little bit before jumping on here, but a lot of people don't know I have a full time gig. It's not because I don't talk about it. I talk about it more on LinkedIn, where it's more professional focused. Also, a lot of what we do at Acorns takes so long to get out into market that it almost I can't share it for so long that it's like, why? And then some of the other stuff like CRMs, like I can share like the header images and the way the styles evolved, but at the same time, it's like I don't know that sharing a dope scenery that I built with a squirrel is going to add anything to someone. And I don't want to just post to get likes. I want to be intentional. I want the things I create to bring an investment to the people that follow me, so that they're not just a consumer, but I'm giving them something. Um,
mhm.
but yeah, I hope that answers those
Yeah.
questions. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then, like, you're one of the things that I saw recently you posted, and recently is relative. I think it was a couple months ago.
Yeah.
um, was like a Lilo and Stitch illustration right around the time the live action came out.
Uh-huh.
How much of that type of work is like how much of the stuff you post online is like for real clients versus like you're just continuing to exercise because you're an artist and you draw and like it brings enjoyment. Especially around like that Lilo and Stitch illustration.
Yeah. Oddly enough, that illustration was a commission piece from a follower and a friend more than even a client. She was an avid Run Disneyer person. She followed me for years now with all my Disney work that I've done. So she hit me up. She's like, "Hey, I'm hanging up my running shoes. My knees can't take it anymore. I'm having another baby, but I want to get one tattoo made that kind of signifies every race I've ever done." So
Mm,
I created this small world meets Mickey Mouse running a marathon, and there were some little Easter eggs to her family and to some of the races. So I did that for her, and she got the tattoo. Apparently, she had raved about it to all of her friends. They all started following me. And that led to her friend hitting me up going, "Hey, she's about to have a baby. What do you think about creating a piece that I can give to her as a gift? And it can be from me, but also from you." So it just so happened that she was going to be having her baby shower around the same time that the movie. So it wasn't like I wasn't creating it to try to like build fanfare around the movie, which I mean, no, I mean, if that's what people want to do, and I'm guilty of it too, go for it. If you get motivated, like especially Lilo and Stitch is important to our family. My oldest, who's now 12, he would only watch that like every day. So we're very experienced in that realm. But no, it was funny. It happened to coincide where she was
Nice.
having her baby shower and we were wrapping up the project. And I posted on my Instagram as well that I got to see when she received it. I got to see her emotion for it. We did some ties into her other kids. Like I think it's her son that loves musubi. So like Stitch is holding a musubi, which is so like odd. So if you don't know the story, you're just like, why are they sitting in a boat, a small world boat with a musubi? So you know what I mean? It was a cool project. Yeah.
Yeah, and so one of the other things I wanted to talk to you about too was, you mentioned at Acorns early you made a children's book, and that was the first children's book you did, but it's not the only children's book you've illustrated. Um, Talk a little bit about, I think there's at least one other, if not more, that you've
Yeah.
done.
Yeah. I've done technically three additional ones. The first one, is called Love Can. It's an amazing book about the love of God and the things that the love of God can do, and how the love of God is transformative. Um, Briefly hits on like early book of Acts where they're in the upper room and how Holy Spirit comes and Holy Spirit pours the love of the Father into your hearts through the Holy Spirit, blah blah blah. So I loved that book. It was my first ever like much more detailed. Like if you were to look at the Acorns early book, I kept it very simple because we didn't have a lot of time and a lot of budget. I would look at it almost like each page is like a Mary Blair sketch to where it's like very simple but like informative. Like we not big story, right? It's just like picture, picture, picture. Um, where that book was the first time I had ever gotten into like having a true story that needed to be told.
Mm,
So there's that one, and then it's kind of a children's book, but kind of not. It was for Compassion International, and it's a book kind of going over the different, um, the different compartments of the organization and how, um, the things that people donate, like their donations, like how it transforms lives. So, like one of them is like feeding someone in another country, and then one is like them receiving a letter from someone. And it kind of and it are actually like true stories as well. So each page is a true story to one of the children that got a letter or got a donation and how their life is actually being transformed. There's one spread in particular that's really powerful and was place in Latin America, but um, one of the one of the locations had actually been targeted for sex trafficking. And so they have all these girls and boys without parents in an orphanage. And they have this ex-military guy that is now the bouncer or the security guard. And there was a story where these gang members came up and they were like, give us, you know, we want some of the kids kind of a thing. And he like stood up to him and like how your donations are paying these people that are protecting children too. It's not we're not just feeding, we're not just clothing, we're not just writing letters, but we're actually standing in the gap to protect these kids. So that was the second one, and then the third one is called My Daddy's Hero, and it's basically how kids look up to us as dads, and it's powerful the way our kids view us and they admire us and the things that we teach them. But the book really hinges on this key moment where the father goes, "Yeah, but let me tell you about my hero," and that's when he
mm,
introduces the figure of Jesus, and then he walks his daughters through, just like the story of Jesus up until the cross and resurrection, and just kind of like showing like as powerful and as awesome as dad is, what actually fuels dad to be who he is dad's relationship to Jesus. So yeah, those are some killer books to be part of. Uh, My Daddy's Hero, actually, Jared has now become a friend of mine, and we talk on and off. Amazing dude doing amazing things, focused on dads and men,
mm.
which I think is right up your alley. So yeah, man, I would say children's books, man. If I could only do that, I know they don't pay the best. I know it by experience. There's just something beautiful, about taking a story and building a creative around it.
Yeah. How many of those were you able to then read with your boys, like, they were when they were at, like, the right ages that those books align with?
I would say it was perfect because, Love Can, I think, is great for really any age bracket, especially because my boys There was a period of time where I was not as committed to my relationship with God, and Harper in particular got to see those times. But then he got to see the time when I kind of flipped it, and I was like actually like being more intentional with my relationship with God. And so when my Daddy's Hero came out, it was at a really great time for my sons to see like, hey, that whole thing you watched Daddy transform, like that was kind of like this story. Let's read it now, kind of a thing. So, and one of my favorite parts too, dude, is the publisher has like sent me books, and I've been able to like give them to people, give them to family, give them to friends. And so it's really cool to know that like some of my best friends are now reading these books to their kids. And it's just a cool thing to like find out from them, like, what do you think? How did your kids respond to this? But yeah, it's been cool.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah, shifting gears a little bit too, I briefly mentioned your training for a marathon.
Yes.
So, not only are you able to lift incredibly heavy things from what I've seen online, you're now, training, which is like they're two different skills, right? Is like running versus lifting. What was the motivation behind wanting to do this? How is training going?
Yeah. I'm sure. I don't know if you saw it. Maybe you did. I just squatted 400 pounds, which was awesome. I never thought I would ever hit that weight. Especially, I don't talk about it much, but like I tore something in my leg a long time ago. My right leg is smaller than my left, and so I never thought I would ever hit that weight. So that happened, and I'm like, yes, I did it. As far as like motivation, I would say the motivating factor for me doing this half marathon was actually my wife, because she's on her weight loss journey. She's wanting to lose weight, get healthy, get more active. And so she kind of was like, she would work out from time to time with me in the gym, but it never clicked for her to do what I do, which is fun. Like I think each person train the way you want to train. Everybody should move. Everybody should be active in some way, shape, or form, even if it's walking. Do something to improve your health to live longer, especially as a dad, right? Like let's live as long as we can for our kids and grandkids. But she started picking up running. And I am a notorious I hate running guy. I always said I will never run. I hate it. I don't want to do it. um but I watched her do it. I watched her, you know just wrapped up the um it's like Run Disney, but at home series, like online series, where she got like 5 really cool medals. I got to watch her transform though. Like there was, dude, like it was just powerful to watch her finish the challenge and like just break into tears because she's like, for one, I never thought I could do this, and there's people in my life that would tell me I could never do this. So like to watch her do that was motivating. And so um a Run Disney event came up, and on a whim, she's like, "Well, I'm gonna sign up for the 10K." She's actually never ran a 10K before. And I was like, you know what? I started dabbling with running because she was motivating the crap out of me, and I was like, I want to do this too. And so I had already run a couple like by myself, 5Ks and stuff and 10Ks. And so I was like, I might as well just sign up for a half marathon because I've never run that. I've never run 13 miles. I've ran 8 and took me a couple days to recover. But let's just do this. And so I signed up. I switched my training entirely. I went from only lifting, which you can imagine if you can squat 400 pounds, you're probably lifting frequent. So I was going from like 4 to 5 days of lifting to now lifting 2 to 3 days and then 2 to 3 days of running. Um, it's hard because I love lifting and I have a really nice setup. And so it's like I'll go in to run on the treadmill or go outside. And I'm like, man, I'd rather be bench pressing right now. But it's going good. I mean, my times have increased. I'm about literally 1 second away from sub 30 5K, which I know is, for a lot of people, they can do that pretty easily. But for me, who literally has only been running for a couple months, that was a huge deal. Um, yeah, like a sub 35K seemed like it would never happen. But yeah, man, it's been a challenge. There's just something about choosing something that you don't like and focusing on it, focusing on that improvement that I've started to fall in love with. And it kind of like exposed areas in my life where I would choose the easy way. I would choose like the easiest path possible to get there. And I think there's times like you need to be wise. There's certain things like don't choose the hardest path to get there. But I found like I was avoiding discomfort in a way that was going to actually like harm me moving forward versus supporting me moving forward. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. And one of the reasons I even brought it up, and we talked about this beforehand, I'm also training. I am also someone who never ran. Um, and it has taught me so much, but I'm trying to not make it my personality.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
so I'm being like cognizant of when I talk about it publicly,
Uh,
versus, not. But I think what has dawned on me, and I've seen this happen, kind of across a lot of guests that I've had on the show, is we're in this age range where it's like, oh, it's not as easy as it was when we
uh-huh.
were younger to stay healthy. Now it has to be like a concerted effort to maintain that. And for all of those reasons you said earlier, longevity of life, health for our kids, I'm starting to see it's important. I don't really care about weight. I'm thinking health,
Mm.
right? Like
Yeah.
what does health look like in a dad, especially designers who spend most of the time on their butt in front of a screen, right? And so it's exciting to see other folks that are investing in health, which is cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's something I've been passionate about for a long time, to be honest. Prior to my kids even. I got married in '07. So we're coming up on 20 years here pretty soon, which is
That's awesome.
insane. But me and her both, we got pretty unhealthy. We were both in at that point semi like full-time ministry at the time, and Christian ministry does not typically put an emphasis on health as much as it does on spirituality. So me and her both blew up. I got to like 265, she got over 300. Both of us were having trouble sleeping, sleep apnea. Which I didn't know what was happening. I was like, I stopped breathing at night. And so we both just made a concerted effort to like do this. We for literally the first 7 or 8 years of our marriage, we didn't know we could have kids. Um, so we thought, okay, maybe if we get healthy, we'll have kids. We were trying to have a baby and we couldn't. And it wasn't until really we started getting healthy, started watching what we were eating, started moving more. And back then, there was a program, I can't remember what it was called, but it was literally just like one of those P90X wannabes where it was like 10 minutes a day though. And I was crushing it for 10 minutes a day every day, but it instilled something in me. But it's something we've been passionate about. And I didn't really start taking lifting serious until probably around the time that Harper was born. Just because I was like, I don't want to be, because at that point I had lost a bunch of weight. I got down to like maybe 180, 190. And I just didn't want the typical dad bod at that point, which I think I still kind of have a dad bod, but anyway. Um, I got to that point where I wanted to like really start lifting. I got down to like 160 and I started eating good. And yeah, man, it's been something that like I care so much about. And then once this is another thing. Once you lose people in your life, like once I lost my parents, man, and then my stepdad dipped out because he was a trash bag. Um, Once all of that kind of happened, you start to really think about what am I eating, what am I drinking, how much am I moving, how is my sleep, like all that stuff tends to matter a lot more. Not only when you have a kid, but man, when you go through trauma and loss from people that like you absolutely loved, it changes a lot of your perspective over health. Um, but yeah, that kinda stuff matters for sure, especially like you said, our job is fit. That's not great. Like, it's gonna if you don't take care of it now, it can get to that point where it's gonna be much harder to take care of it later, and I'd rather pay the price now on that than later on.
Yeah, that's good. Um, two last questions before we wrap here, and those are, as a dad, what has been your greatest joy, and what has been your biggest learning?
Um, Greatest joy. I mean, I think one of my greatest joys right now, and at least I'm gonna go by like the current season we're in, because I think each phase of my children has had a greatest joy. Um, so I'll say for Harper right now, the greatest joy is watching him become so independent. And I know later when he's a teenager, that's going to probably freak me out. But right now, you just go through a phase where like you do everything for your kid from Here's your food, here's your water, let me wipe your butt. Like all those things, to then looking at them going, wow, like you cleaned your room, you made yourself breakfast, you did this, you did that. So watching him become independent and then being proud of him through it has been so awesome to witness. And I'll say for Finn right now, my greatest joy has actually been like there was a period of time where he was extremely like hard to deal with. But like when we're in this phase right now where he's coming into himself, and it's incredibly like impactful for me to like watch him be so just different than his brother was, but then like become so loving and so like kind. And so it's been like watching the joy has been like watching, I guess for both, watching them transform into like who they are right now has been such a blessing to like see where they've come from and how much they've grown, watching them go through. I mean, because they watched me lose my parents, right? And so like seeing how that affected them, but then seeing how like how they've been so readily available and easy to like transition and grow into who they are right now, that it's been just so incredible. It's been like
Mm,
a huge joy, to put it in your
yeah.
terms. Biggest learning has been my kids will replicate what they see in me. So, like I said, there was a period of time that dad wasn't who he is now, right? And so knowing that our kids are malleable and they are transformed by what they're seeing and what they're hearing and what we consume, they will consume. And I'd say like being aware and like living, I guess like living to the standard I want to see in my boys, right? Like I don't want to call them to something higher than I'm willing to do myself. And so I think calling them into that and being like aware of that has been super impactful. Um, and something that like I'm just really aware of. Like my kids they're gonna replicate, and like uh, making sure that like I'm a super loving husband, that I'm a super loving father, that like I know that those are the things I want to instill in them that are going to like have dividends in the future. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
yeah, do
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. I'm glad that we got this time. If folks wanted to find you online or connect with you, where can they go to do that?
I'm pretty much on Instagram, like I said, on LinkedIn too. Which LinkedIn is just Adam Grayson. Instagram Studio Grayson. My website studiograyson.com. Easiest ways to find me. My wife has our family Instagram account, which is Sunshine Explorer Fam. We vlog from time to time. We have a vlog coming out soon. It's just like a fun little passion project that me and her have together to like document our family, kind of a thing. But yeah, that's where you can find me.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for coming on.
Yeah, thank you, dude. Appreciate it.